Hi, my name is Raphael Pinto and this is my project for CMPT436. For this project, I'm going to be comparing REST and SOAP platforms, and what I'm going to be doing is seeing the response time between them and also testing how much of the servers can handle as far as user requests. So for my first program using SOAP, it is basically using two Docker containers, one using a mono and a XSP container. For this experiment, I decided to use just a simple Fibonacci sequence for the program. So just to show a quick demo about how we would go about that, we're just going to go ahead and fire up Docker. So once we have the containers here listening, I can go ahead and attach it to the mono container. File. And then I can simply, since I already compiled the file, I can just go ahead and go with mono fib.x. So far, I can clearly see that it is working. And next, I'm going to be showing how to use the program using REST. So for the program now using REST, I decided to use a Docker container again, running a Flask container as well as a mono. We'll be using a Docker file with some commands for Flask and how to start it. The application following the REST framework again is going to be using a Fibonacci sequence for comparison between the two. And then we're going to be using mono to execute and create the web request. So again, I'm just going to go ahead and fire up Docker. Oh, my apologies. So there is already a container running here, and I just have to delete it. Okay, let me just try one more time. Okay, perfect. So now we have a Flask container up. So then we simply again going to go back to the file. Going to attach to the mono container. Again, we use the same code, we're able to get the same response. Now, for the test environment, I decided to use SOAP UI to run the SOAP application and to perform the load test as well. So, just so it don't take too much time, I do already have our testing project set up. So the first one I'm going to be setting is going to be using the just to see the response time. So as far as the location, we can see that we're using localhost 8082. Again, using the Fibonacci sequence ASMX file. So when we're looking at the SOAP envelope, for this one here, we're running with input of 8,000. And once we send a request, we can see that receive it here in about 57 milliseconds. I can run this a couple more times and we'll be observing different results. Now, as far as the testing goes, I do have a load test already. We're going to be using just a simple test. We're going to be running about 20 threads. We're going to be doing that for about a minute and having a test delay between these threads for about a second. So far, we can see a few things changing as well. So we can see that the average time for the responses are between 200 to 180 milliseconds going down. The max length of time that took to receive a request was about 1100 milliseconds. If you can see the count of threads and how much bytes are being sent per second. Has so far there are no errors or percentage errors so far. So everything is going well as expected. Okay, so we're almost done. So far, so as we can see, we have an average response time of about 100 milliseconds. The maximum that it took was about 1100 again. As you can see, there being no errors. And now we're going to be doing the same using REST. Now, when it comes to test REST, we found that using SOAP UI, some of the results, they were not as consistent as we expected. There's been some delays about the response that we've been receiving from REST, and apparently that is a well-documented issue. So as an alternative, I decided to use Locust as a way to test a REST application in Python using a Flask container. So once we have our Docker containers running, so we're just going to go to Locust here. Okay, so now there's a port listening on 8089. So we're just going to open here and we're going to do a quick test. Just uses the same parameters that was used for our SOAP application. So pretty similar. So we're going to be using about 20 users, again using the spawn rate of 1 request per second. So for application, so we should be using localhost 80. Perfect. So once we started here, there is unfortunately no timer, so we just have to keep an eye on the watch while this is going. So while this is running, just to display quickly the task we had to use it with the locust file. It is very quick. We just use the API endpoints here for the FIB4000, similar to what we run in SOAP. So kind of going back, still going for a little bit longer, so we can still see that the requests are coming. This one does shows a little bit more of requests, so we can see the number of requests per second that we've been receiving. We can see the response time for a server. So the meter response has been fairly well. The 95% percentile, it is going up. And number of users, so once we reach that 20 users, it has been pretty steady. So we can see so far there's been, okay, so perfect. So there is a couple errors now. So the current radio, so we're going back to the statistics. Okay, so we had run about for a minute. So there has been a few errors now when running this file that did not happen before. But some of the numbers that I found as a whole was that for small applications, for a small number of users, REST did perform better. And when it comes down to larger number of users and larger requests, SOAP had a slightly edge on REST. I will be showing quickly a report just to show the data that I have collected. Although it is showing a high percentage of failures, I've been running Locust now. Running previously, I did not encounter any errors. Could be because I'm also using a screen recording device, which in case might be putting a little bit of strain on my server. So a quickly demonstration for the errors when using SOAP. For the times, it was a little bit higher, a larger increment, a little bit smaller when it comes down to higher numbers. And when we're looking at REST, for small numbers, it does perform better than SOAP. However, when it goes back to higher users, there is a little bit of discrepancy, and you'll be seeing error. My apologies, not an error, but an average time response a little bit larger. So with that conclusion, for this particular application, it does seem that SOAP was the best framework. Thank you for watching.